England was a small island nation in the early 1600s. It was not yet a global power. Its gaze turned outward toward the vast, open seas. Small but sturdy ships began to venture far from familiar shores. These vessels were the seeds of a future empire. They carried ambitious traders, determined soldiers, a thirst for profit. The primary motive was economic advantage, not conquest. England sought new markets for wool, new markets for other goods. It wanted new sources of wealth to compete with European rivals, Spain, Portugal. The age of exploration became the age of commerce and control. The ships under the English flag were more than transport. They were instruments of policy projections of power. Captains and crews mapped coastlines, charted currents, documented resources. Every new harbor was a potential trading post. Every island could be a colony. Expansion was slow and deliberate. The British Empire was not built by kings and queens alone. It was largely constructed by powerful corporations. The most famous of these was the East India Company, chartered in 1600. It was granted a monopoly on all English trade east of Africa. No other English merchant could legally compete. Lucrative markets in India and Asia. This exclusive right gave the company immense power. It could set prices, control supply chains, negotiate with local rulers from a position of unmatched strength. A state within a state. A commercial enterprise with the authority of a government. Initially, it focused purely on trade. Its ships brought back spices, textiles, tea, enormous profits in London. To protect its interests, the company involved itself in local politics. It built forts, raised private armies, made alliances with some Indian princes against others. Over time, trade and power became inseparable. The company's soldiers, paid by trading profits, enforced monopolies, and expanded territorial control. A quest for pepper, a quest for silk, evolved into the conquest of a subcontinent. Commerce as justification, military force as the tool. The primary function of a colony was to be a source of raw materials for the mother country. The British Empire became a vast network harvesting the natural wealth of the globe. Each region was valued for specific resources that Britain could not produce or could not produce cheaply enough. In the Caribbean, islands like Jamaica and Barbados were transformed into giant sugar factories. Vast plantations, worked by the brutalized labor of enslaved Africans, produced sugar, molasses, rum. These commodities, once luxuries for the rich, became staples in Britain, fueling the workforce of the Industrial Revolution with cheap calories. The sweetness in a British cup of tea was paid for by immense human suffering. India, often called the jewel in the crown, was a treasure trove of resources. For centuries, it had been a world leader in producing high-quality textiles. British policy systematically dismantled this local industry to eliminate competition. Instead, India was repurposed to supply raw cotton for the booming mills of Manchester and Lancashire. Beyond cotton, India provided opium, which was forcibly exported to China in exchange for tea. Spices, indigo dye, saltpeter for gunpowder, jute. The extraction was relentless, land was reorganized, crops were dictated, taxes were levied to ensure a constant flow of these valuable materials out of the country and onto British ships. Africa, too, was plundered for its resources: gold, ivory, and most horrifically, human beings. This created a permanent trade imbalance that enriched Britain at the expense of its colonies. The raw materials harvested from the colonies did not become wealth until they were processed. The link in this chain was Britain's immense merchant navy. Fleets constantly crisscrossing the oceans formed the arteries of the empire. Ports like London, Liverpool, and Glasgow swelled into global hubs of commerce. Their docks were a forest of masts. Their warehouses overflowed with cotton from India, sugar from Jamaica, and timber from Canada. An entire ecosystem of jobs and industries grew around this trade. Once the raw goods arrived, they were fed into the hungry maw of the Industrial Revolution. New inventions like the spinning jenny and the power loom, powered by steam engines, enabled unprecedented production. Mass-produced cloth was sold back to the colonies, often destroying local artisan industries. The City of London became the world's financial capital, where the profits of empire were counted, invested, and multiplied. This cyclical relationship created a self-reinforcing loop of wealth and power. The banks of London were directly connected to the fields and mines thousands of miles away. The skyline of modern Britain, banks and railway stations, was constructed with wealth from global extraction and production. The immense wealth that flowed into Britain came at a staggering human cost. Millions were captured, torn from their homes, transported across the Atlantic in hellish conditions, and forced to labor under constant threat of violence. Exploitation evolved. Taxes, coerced cash crops, and suppressed local industries. Famines devastated regions, even as exports continued. Resistance was crushed by military force. London's grand museums and bank buildings stand as monuments to imperial wealth. Empires fall, their wealth remains.